we've been delivering projects, as John's mentioned, across New Zealand, but we've been doing a lot across Australia and further afield in Scotland through COVID and parts of the UK. So this is, it's a very interesting field at the moment. It's a very dynamic space to be in. But one thing is so fascinating is that there are so many similarities in every area we work in. The opportunities in our regions, the opportunities in our local centres. So this is a great opportunity now to talk about it. Our toughest gig is always the gig in our own hometown. It's easy to be able to rock up to other places around the world and do these things, but to do something in your own hometown amongst your friends and peers is particularly challenging. So what we wanted to talk today about, and again, it's a great follow-on from where John's just come from, all of the points that he's focused in on, we're going to be delving into a little bit deeper and kind of showing where we can be getting some of this success quickly through our local centres. One of the key things is we've got these new audiences that our local centres have never seen before. It's quite fascinating. Wherever we are, we were in Taradale a couple of weeks ago, and the businesses there just talking about how many more people they've got in their coffee shops during the week. The people they would have usually seen on the weekends or on the holidays are now not travelling to Auckland, not travelling to Wellington, not travelling to Australia. They've moved to places like the Bay, like the Hawke's Bay, for lifestyle. There are sea changes and tree changes and all of these people that are enriching our communities. And now they're staying in those communities and they're adding even more value. Lots of lessons to learn for our situation as well. So I mentioned we've been working in a lot of different places over the last 12 months, overseas, as well as areas like Kapiti, the Wairarapa, Hawke's Bay, Taranaki, Whanganui, and in Auckland. So again, same, very, very similar situations in all of these areas. So some of the key trends that are driving potential for our suburban centres, some of the likely permanent changes that we are going to see that are going to create opportunity for our businesses, opportunities that the communities can leverage. And so not only yourselves as business people, but collectively as communities, as whether they be business improvement districts or business associations, things that you can do collaboratively and collegially. And again, how those local centres can best benefit. So what's gone on? COVID-driven dynamics, it's no surprise that we are seeing significant opportunities in our local centres. Flexible working, I prefer to call it, rather than work from home, because that's what we're seeing more and more of now. The ability to be able to blend your work time between home and work. We're seeing a variety of different types of responses to this. One of the most exciting parts that we have when we're travelling the country and talking to different areas and businesses is just how this is resonating in various areas. We talked to one of the very large employers in Johnsonville the other day to understand how they're coping with this and what they're seeing. So medical assurance was a really interesting conversation, and just showing how younger people are wanting to come into work. Some of the more mature people are enjoying that time that they can spend at home. So it's a very much of a mixed bag, but what was most interesting is this is a continually changing dynamic. What we're talking about now may be very different in a couple of months' time. It could be seasonally related too, but it's going to take a while for this to work itself through. The other interesting thing through COVID, of course, is that rapid digital adoption. Sure, we were getting a lot of people moving towards digital channels, but now it really accelerated, and we're seeing a lot wider demographics adopting digital first. Opportunities, challenges for some businesses, but opportunities for others. Certainly opportunities for those that are going to become digital, that are becoming digitally enabled. And it was very gratifying to see just how quickly many of the businesses did enable themselves through that COVID period, and just how they were able to deliver that usability and that service to their communities. What we also saw socially was a very big shift in terms of people's refocused priorities. People adopted healthier lifestyles. There was a lot more focus on family and community. And those values are very much to the fore. We're seeing a lot stronger emphasis and demand and awareness around the environment and looking after our communities, that goodness. So where does this play in for our suburban centres? Yes, more people are living and working in our suburbs significantly. We've got our data team up shortly who'll be able to talk about just how we know about some of this stuff. But through COVID, and we had the privilege of working in Newtown with the Innovating Streets projects, and just being able to talk to the businesses, the cafes, the fruit businesses, the dairies, just talking about how many more people that they were seeing, more people coming more regularly, people introducing themselves as new residents. It's a real delight. And this is one of the things that we're seeing, more and more people connected with their local businesses. They saw new relevance and pride and awareness of what was just under their noses in many cases. The Love Local campaign was extremely successful, and it really orientated people back into their local communities. As John mentioned, we had the privilege of being able to deliver the Love Local store, which was in the city centre. But what it did was it brought together about 8 different artisanal businesses, some small, some large. We were very lucky to have Fix and Fog there, partnering with Wellington Children's Hospital. But what was most fascinating is that people very much saw the need to support these local businesses of all scales. We had Coffee Supreme, again, an international business, but people knew that this is a homegrown Wellington business. People were coming in and deliberately purchasing at every one of those stores because they saw the need to be supporting local businesses with priority. The captive spend is a fascinating one. People cannot spend overseas, they can't leave the country, and that captive spend is really driving a lot of success for our businesses. People are spending on experiences, they're treating themselves, they're enriching their lifestyles, and it continues right now. Working in Hastings just recently, and one of the big retailers stopped us as we were just leaving the store after we'd been having a great discussion with him. And he said, please don't let them open the borders. Not that we have any control over that, but that's the reality. His business was, he said, in 100 years, we've never seen this before. Generations, we've never seen this kind of growth. And it's true. We've got all this money looking for a home, but we've also got this window of opportunity to be able to connect and better engage with our communities. This won't always be like this. So how can we leverage this opportunity now and build around it? We're also seeing a lot of what we would call change makers moving into our suburban centres and our regions, indeed, but particularly for our suburban centres. Younger couples who are able to get a foothold into the market, and they're change makers. They're wanting to see contemporary experiences. They're wanting to be part of their communities, and they're wanting to gently influence what's going on around them. They want to feel the pride, and they want to have some say in what's going on. So we really need to be mindful of just how our areas are changing. And again, we saw that in Newtown with residential intensification, with new ethnicities, all of their various needs and wants and opportunities that they bring for that community. So those suburban change makers are really exciting. Again, we've been working in lots of coastal destinations recently, areas in the provinces and the regions, and a significant growth there in the likes of what we call sea changes, people looking for lifestyle changes, and the tree changes who are focused on environmental goals. What are we going to see that are going to embed? What do we feel from looking at these other areas and our other suburban centres around New Zealand? What's going to stay? Well, certainly flexible working is here to stay. There's no doubt that that will be here for a long term. Will it impact the cities? To a certain extent, but the cities will rebalance. As we've seen, we work a lot with big retailers around the country, and we know when another competitor comes in, yes, it impacts them for a certain time, but they rebound, they find their own new equilibrium. And so we can be confident that if we are strategic and we're mindful of our markets and our opportunities, then we'll be fine. You'll be hearing about planning for growth from the team at Council shortly, but the residential intensification is one thing that is quite fascinating, and again, bringing new audiences with fresh expectations who are enriching our communities, creating more opportunities for business. Residential intensification is occurring across pretty much all of our suburban centres right now, some greater than others. But we also know that there's a huge demand that once some of the key planning changes will go through, we'll see that escalate much more. Suburbs, again, being on trend with younger people. And the other aspect we're going to start to see is area character will develop and strengthen. We've got good representation here today from Newtown and Island Bay and Berrima, all areas that have got huge opportunity to be able to leverage the character of those places that are unlike anywhere else. And it's these types of things that we need to focus on. Where can we find our differentiation in our suburban centres? How can you separate from the next one? How can you create that awareness of something, what's special in your area? What can we achieve if we get it right? Well, we can stop that spending attrition. We know how much money leaves our communities every day. People going elsewhere for products or experiences. We can stop that and we can have it back into our own communities. Gaining market share is a key part of that as well. And building performance for the businesses. We need to make sure that our businesses are resilient. And a key part of that is so that we've got succession, so that people want to come into those areas and buy businesses and change them. We've been doing a lot in the Southland area, and it's fascinating that businesses that go up for sale sell immediately in those areas. Whereas in Auckland, it's a much tougher situation. So creating very successful economies where people see a future is really important. It's challenging sometimes when we talk with communities where they don't feel pride in their area, where they don't feel pride with the offer and experience and the environment that they've got. So it's important that we work with our communities to make sure that we build pride by giving people the right types of retail, hospitality, leisure, and environments for people to enjoy. We want to build advocacy, because advocacy is the key aspect these days. There's no point advertising. The thing we need to be doing is getting people to talk fondly and often about their local centre, feeling proud to bring their friends there for coffee and dinner and lunches. And we're seeing that happening in many parts of Wellington. And you know, John touched on the growth of hospitality in our suburban centres. That is absolutely pivotal. You don't need to go and buy a new dress or a new shirt every day, but you will go for a coffee at the very least. And if you've got a great place to go for meals, and we've seen just how these types of environments have transformed many of our suburban centres in Wellington. And of course, resilience. Wellington's got resilience as part of its DNA. But we've got to create that demand. And again, as I mentioned, talking about succession. So how do we leverage this opportunity right now? And I talk about it being a limited window. Yes, it is. You know, we do have this captive spend. We've got this attention on our local centres. People have got time. They're spending more time in their areas, and they're spending more time in their communities with each other. So as communities, as businesses, we need to engage much more with our communities. We've got to take every opportunity to get alongside those audiences and be listening to them and be able to consider how we can be adapting our environments, our spaces and our amenities, adapting our retail and hospitality offer and experience so that we are best able to cater for their needs and expectations. So it's very important we're listening a lot more to our communities. And also that we're able to adapt. So it's very, one of the things that we're seeing a lot at the moment, it's a lot of change going on around the country. And, you know, the safety blanket, people want to hold on to what they feel familiar with, what they know. But we need to be able to adapt strategically, because if we don't adapt, others will be grabbing their share of our market. So finally, what do we need to do? We need to demonstrate that we are going to implement and embed those community-led improvements. What people are telling us that they want to see, we need to be making sure that we are delivering that in our offers and experiences in our local centres. We've got to make sure that those values that we're talking about and championing are being delivered effectively, and environment is a key part of that. Making sure that we are reflecting the needs of our current and future audiences in these areas. We're going to make sure our cultures reflect those local vibes, be able to tease out those things that make us special. And again, those making sure our offers align with needs and potential. And the other aspect, again, what makes us different? Ensuring that these experiences are authentic and genuine. That's what separates one local centre from another. So making sure that we know what makes us different and be able to leverage that. And finally, supporting that pride and preference. Again, we don't want to be in those situations where people are not feeling comfortable with their local offer, not feeling proud, and again, spending their time and goodwill elsewhere. So what could success look like for Wellington? We could ultimately be New Zealand's most consumer-centric local centres. That should be our goal, representing the needs and the values of our communities. It takes agility, it takes a community to be thinking about this. It takes collaboration. We might need to be helping our neighbours a little bit more than we do now. We might need to have other people in the conversation, but it should be our focus because this is the way our local centres need to change.